Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Day One podcast. I'm Brett Nord.
I'm Adam Daly.
We're loving this. We're back with some fun stuff.
It's still going. I'm passionate about podcasting.
Yes,
it's
you
a
are.
personal hobby of mine, so I love that I get to do it as part of work.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great medium for us to share kind of what's going on inside of Day One, talk about best practices, and I love the interviews that you get to do with users to talk about how they use Day One.
That's right.
I think that's fascinating because we all use it differently, and maybe we can glean off of those things and improve our own journal habits.
Yes.
So
Agreed. And I'll keep doing them as long as people want to talk.
Brilliant.
So,
And you have some in reserve too, right?
Yeah. We're going to get to one today that's a lot of fun.
Perfect. Let's talk a little bit about updates first because we just released version 3.3 for iOS.
Right.
I think I talked a few weeks ago with Johnny about version numbers because I had always been like, okay, what qualifies something as a dot release or a dot release or whatever. Anyway, this one was bigger and there was quite a bit of stuff included in it. So if you looked at the App Store release notes, there was like 4 paragraphs of things going on.
We could really confuse people if we did dashes too, like a dot dash release.
Dot dash release,
We
yeah.
could do it Morse code. No more numbers. It's now the release.
That's right. Anyway, so 3.3 was released, and I'm really excited about this one because drag and drop for photos is back. And that was a big request that we had from our users, especially since the launch of the new editor. Now you can rearrange photos however you want. And I've been playing with this. It's really fun. You can rearrange photos within a group as you add them all together, or you can rearrange them in different parts. You can kind of pull it out of a group and then put it wherever you want in your entry. So that's back in 3.3.
Great.
It is a phased release, I believe, still. And what that means is we launch it, we tell Apple we want to release it in phases, and then over the next 7 days it goes out to more and more people. And that just kind of allows us to get it out there, and if there's major showstoppers, we can push pause and then fix whatever needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
But if not, it just rolls out over the next 7 days. If you want to manually update, well, it's probably moot at this point because this episode is out on Monday, but you should see that now. Be sure to check out the release notes in the App Store, or you can always find our release notes. We update on our help guides at help.dayoneapp.com.
Right.
Just search release notes and you can see both iOS and Mac. So anyway, drag and drop is back. I'm very excited about that. Not only can you drag and drop photos within an entry, but you can also drag text, photos, and audio files from other apps into Day One in split view on iPad.
Nice.
Which is, I love split view. That's like, I wasn't going to get the new iPad. I think I told everybody, I'm like, nah, I don't need it. It's fine. And I definitely don't need it. But
And we all didn't believe that
I know.
for a second. We thought, let's see how long it
you
was.
and my wife. No kidding.
Right.
But yeah, split screen is like one of my main uses for not Day One.
Sure. The app.
For the iPad.
Yeah.
I use it on Day One because I do on my own personal podcast. I take notes for other things, and so split view is just perfect for moving back and forth between apps, drag and drop. It's all great.
You almost have to use it once or twice to really understand it.
Oh,
and
for sure.
feel like, okay, now I see how it works.
Well, and I think, there's some adaptation there. The same for me happened with the iPhone 10 and the no home button. So getting used to the gestures there.
Sure.
But after once or twice, it's pretty fluid and intuitive.
Yeah.
So like if you wanted to drag text from another app into Day One, you just highlight it, tap, hold on the text, and then drag it into Day One, and it pops right in. So
yeah, it's great.
Anyway, that's back. Editor fixes have been improved, like things with bullet points. There was an issue where code blocks were jumping around if you were trying to type underneath them. That's fixed. Audio transcription has been increased to 5 minutes.
That's big.
Now, just on the back end, audio transcription's been interesting for me to kind of observe and see what the developers go through for that. We're doing everything we can to not increase the cost at all. And so, because there's lots of services out there that provide great audio transcription, but it costs like per minute.
Right.
We've increased that to 5 using Apple's system, so it's not increasing cost, and now you can do that. So play around with it, check it out, and contact us if you have any questions.
Yeah, we've had some great use cases come in that we're going to be talking about in upcoming podcasts too to share.
Perfect.
So it's fun.
I like this, titling audio clips. Now you can put a title to your audio clip so you can identify it more easily. I think that's great. I was just kind of titling my entry what I wanted to title the audio clip. Now I can just put it right in there.
Sure.
So And then also, if you import audio to day one, the file name acts as the title, so it's already inserted there for you.
Great.
Now, we only support M4As at this point, and I think FLAC, but not MP3s or anything like that. But that is something we are considering for the future. It's on our feature request list.
Sure.
So, what else?
Awesome. And transcribing from the Apple Watch when you record, it's mono.
Not yet. There's no transcription yet.
Not transcription, right?
Yeah, it's just audio.
But I'm sorry, when you I guess I don't know what the term. Dictate?
Dictate?
Yeah. It comes in as a mono audio stream.
Well, so there's two different things. There's
Okay.
dictation on the Apple Watch, where you speak and then it writes out the text for you.
Sure.
And then there's audio recording.
I'm talking about audio recording.
Audio recording,
Yeah.
I think it would
Yeah.
be.
Yeah,
I would
it's-
imagine so.
Yeah.
But that has also improved in that you do not have to be connected to your phone now to record audio on your watch. So
Yes.
I'm out on a run or a walk. I don't have my phone with me, but I've got my watch. I can start an audio recording on my watch. Record the audio, press stop. When I get back and connect to my phone, the entry uploads and saves to the phone in the app. So
Great.
that is new.
Unless your watch is full of music and you have no space.
That is true. You have to be
keep
careful
getting
with
those
that. I was completely oblivious because I think by default Apple loads on a bunch of playlists on your watch.
Right.
So if you're wondering about that, make sure you check out your watch settings for available space.
Yes.
Because you definitely need that.
I've yet to not have my phone with me, so I'm like, why do I put music on my watch?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But like I said, I go around, I'll go on a walk once a night, and at night I don't take my phone because it'll just like, I have the 10S Max, and so
Yes.
it'll like weigh down my athletic shorts.
Right.
I just leave it home
Sure.
because I can, do audio to my AirPods. It's I'm a fanboy. I know.
No, it's great. That's good. That's good.
I'm going to be accused of that.
And someday,
I'm okay with it.
Someday we'll Hey Siri.
There you
right
go.
From your watch.
Did you activate anything?
No.
Okay.
We're good.
No, I do like that I can raise my watch and just talk to my watch without saying "Hey Siri,"
Yes.
which is convenient.
Oh, you did it again. Yeah.
But it didn't sing.
No.
We're good.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big one though.
Yes.
Audio recording on the watch without being connected to your phone.
How about the Mac?
Well, I'll get to the Mac in a second. I have three more.
Okay.
Three
take
more.
your time. Yeah. Good.
You say take your time, but anyway, this is something I wanted to talk about just a little bit. The app icon badge was removed. Now, in 3.2.2, there was a bug where it wouldn't go away.
Right.
And it was a pain point. Like, how can I get this thing
Yes.
to dismiss? Well, turns out we use notifications for a lot of different things, not just reminders, not just on this day or whatever. There's different notifications that can come in. And when the icon badge or the app badge gets dismissed, it dismisses all notifications. And so if I had that and I opened up the app to clear the badge, then maybe my notification to, that had a template in it
Sure.
would be cleared
Gone
out
too.
and I couldn't access it. So right now, to avoid that, we have removed the badge icon, notification icon. So it's on purpose. I know some people told me that they rely on that thing to remind
Yes.
them to get in there. I'm sorry. It's not, we're not trying to be
Sure.
dumb about this, but it's difficult to manage different types of notifications with that thing in there because once you clear it, it clears all notifications. So we're looking at different options and how we can preserve that, but right now it's been removed.
Sure.
Okay.
Got it.
Timeline swipe now includes the delete action and a confirmation. So I think that's a big deal. If you're on the timeline view, you can just swipe on an entry and see a trash can icon now. So you don't have to go into the more section to delete an entry. It's a lot easier. And there's a confirmation that says, do you really want to delete? So that's in there. And then just a bunch of bug fixes. Now that's another thing you and I talked about before we started this episode. I have gotten some feedback when 3.3 was released that X bug wasn't fixed.
Right.
And I just want to give that person a hug and say, I'm sorry. All of the issues are prioritized by severity, by impact, and worked on as quickly as possible. And some things don't make it in there, or a bug is difficult to reproduce, and so it's pushed down a little bit, down the way. So it's not the 3.3 is not a fix all, but we're working through everything we can.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I just want to hug you and be like, thank you for your support. We're working on it. I promise.
Yeah, it's in queue.
But if you do have issues to report, just contact us. Go to dayoneapp.com/contact. It'll tell you all the ways you can contact us. So,
are those one-off bugs? Are those listed on our page where we have what's up?
Known issues?
Yeah,
no,
issues.
not necessarily. I that's difficult to maintain because things may come and go fairly quickly, and just my time is spread thin as it is. Not extremely thin, but I've got a busy day.
Yep.
So those are major impacting issues that we list there on the known issues page, and I try to declare that up at the top, saying this is not comprehensive.
Sure.
But we're happy to receive any reports.
Right.
We care about this app a lot. We want it to work as you expect it to work and as you are paying for it. So report those bugs, and we will do our best to get them fixed as quickly as possible.
Have we thought of having an unknown features
page? Known bugs and unknown bugs. That sounds like we should let people just submit stuff. No, but yeah, that's an interesting side of software development, Yes, it'd be great to have a completely bug-free piece of software out there.
Yes.
Even big companies have issues, There's notifications within Facebook Messenger just drive me crazy because I'm trying to respond to users going to the Day One page or the Day One community page, and just notifications suck on there. And I'm like, you're a multi-billion-dollar company. Get your act together. Sure. So, I get it. I'm a user as well.
Right.
And most of us here are Day One users, especially our CEO Paul. He loves Day One and uses it personally a lot. He's our number one power user.
Yeah, for sure.
And so if there's a bug, he usually knows about it.
Yeah.
If not, we're happy to report it. So
yeah, awesome. What about the Mac?
2.9.2 for Mac was released. A bunch of editor stuff was fixed. I know there are still a couple of issues that we've had reported, but rich text formatting when copying from Day One will be preserved, which is a big request for people. Editor updates. Improvements there, similar to what iOS had. Improved plain text exporting, so that's been updated. And pasting into Day One should preserve the formatting that you have. So if you're pasting from some other app, and then just various bug fixes. Now, 3.0 is still on the docket.
Yes.
I don't have an ETA, and I wish I could give you all a better one, but it's still on the plan. Right now, Paul hinted at a little feature on our Day One Instagram page that we're working on gifting subscriptions. Okay, so that's in the pipeline. So that's kind of like priority one right now. And
'tis the season.
It is, but 3.0 for the Mac is still on the plan. So I've seen some, what do they call them? Proposals for what it'll look like, and I'm excited. I'm super excited for 3.0. So thank you for your patience. I promise we're working on it. The team, Anyway, that's all I got for updates.
Great stuff. All right. Moving
for
along.
now. And also we've been gathering data about pencil support. I know the new pencil came out with the new iPads Pro. I've been trying to pluralize that correctly. The new iPads Pro. People have been requesting more the Apple Pencil. I think that's probably one of our highest requested things, preserving handwriting and stuff like that. And I think it's a great idea.
Sure.
So if you've received a message from Ryan or any one of us about that, we're just gathering information about how you might use it and how we can best approach this. So it's something the team is definitely looking at.
I've actually talked to Ryan this morning about maybe doing a podcast with a few in our community that are using Pencil and other applications and
then importing
some ideas. Yeah.
See, I was doing that for a while too in the Notes app just for handwriting, and then I realized my handwriting sucks.
Yes.
And so I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. I don't want
but I get the idea. If you have or sketches or whatever, we recently saw this thing where it was a presentation of this person who does these little 4x6 postcards in his journal, and just he would do watercolors or just like pencil sketches of maybe he's on a beach with his family and he'll just do a little sketch of it or what he remembers of it and put that in his journal. And so it kind of, in addition to like a photo or something or text, then you get some really personalized, things in your journal. So I think that's great.
Love it. Good stuff.
Should we talk about this amazing book?
Let's do it. Yeah. So we talked about this on the last couple podcasts of having a book club from the Facebook community. And we want to extend that on, not just to the Facebook community. That's why we mentioned it on the podcast.
Yep.
So everyone knows about it.
And I made an Instagram post and a Twitter post for it.
Yes.
So we're spreading the word outside of the community because some of you may not be on Facebook, and that's totally fine.
Sure.
But we'd love you to participate.
Yeah, for sure. And these are some great books. The first one we talked about was expressive writing.
Mm-hmm.
So actually a little bit tougher to get into.
Yep.
A little more of a workbook format. We talked about that last.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned. There's a lot more like to-do stuff in it.
Yes, it was hard work. It hurt my head, my brain.
Well, this book is totally different because it doesn't tell me what to do, but it's inspired me to do things. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Totally, yes.
So it's not like, here, try writing 20 minutes a day or 20 minutes a time and X number of things.
Yes.
This is like, I tried doing this, and I just went, I got to do this.
I'm like she. Yeah, I'll have the experience she
whatever
had.
she's doing. And, oh, my gosh, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty good experience for me. Mm-hmm. So her first chapter, her first section goes into, I'm not going to spoil the book because we definitely want to discuss it later, but she talks about being more appreciative of her spouse. Mm-hmm. And I just tried what she was doing, which is like just expressing gratitude
to her spouse,
to the spouse once a day.
To her spouse,
yeah, to her spouse. Yeah, I was calling him up on the phone.
Creep. Got to stalk her.
No, but I was expressing gratitude to my wife.
Yes,
and she responded almost exactly like the author Janice Kaplan's husband responded when she was doing it. It was a little like, okay, thanks. But like as a few days went on, like she caught on that I was really being appreciative, and I was being absolutely sincere, really finding specific examples of why I was grateful for my wife.
Sure.
Holy crap.
Wow.
Like it was an amazing experience.
That's so great.
And then the second thing was
Before you move on, you
sorry.
shared with me the text. I thought it was awesome that she picked up on it and said, I genuinely thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Being appreciative. That's awesome. My wife would be saying, what do you want? What are you looking for? No, it'd be more like, what did you already buy that you're trying to justify?
Well, and that's generally my faults right there. It's me trying to get something. She's like, wait a minute, what's your ulterior motive here? But it hasn't been that. I just have genuinely just wanted to try it out and see what happens, and it's worked for me.
Yes.
How it worked for the author is working for me.
Yeah, same similar experience where I felt like I have felt those emotions often. I don't always verbalize them.
Right.
And we had this experience, I don't know if you were going to share this, but with our last staff meeting, our last keynote or showcase meeting on Monday, where we were talking about the book, and Paul talked about how much he appreciated working with us.
Yeah.
And just a genuine, sincere, I think this all the time, but I just don't always verbalize it. So that's what a great thing about the book is it's actually calling out those call of action.
Exactly.
Things.
The other one was she talks about her kids. And that one was a big deal for me. I've got two young children, and sometimes we as parents are always in parent mode, and I say that defining it as like lecture mode.
Sure.
Wanting to guide rear my children up and make them successful adults. Sure. And so I'm always like, okay, what are the things they can improve on, and how can I address that? And she talks about just enjoying your children, just being with them. And so my my oldest 10-year-old daughter had a presentation in our neighborhood locally, like with a school thing. And, the parent in me is thinking, oh, stand up straight, smile, sing loud for your part and whatever.
Sure.
And that's what I would do in previous years.
Sure.
Or I would tell her beforehand, make sure you do this, make sure you do this.
Yes.
Or, hey, afterwards, like, kind of a post-mortem, be like, you didn't smile very much. What happened? And so I was always in this like lecture mode, trying to get her to improve. Well, this time, because I was reading the book, I was just like, all right, just blow all that out of the water. Before she went up to do her part, I said, I am so proud of you. I love you. Go do a great job. And that's all I said, right? She went up, and then she was doing her thing, and all the kids are up there, and all I wanted to do was just smile.
Yes.
Right? Just beam at her.
Sure.
And I did that, and afterwards I said, do you know why I was smiling at you? And she says it as a question. She goes, because you're proud of me? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. So at least she recognized that I was trying to do that.
Yes.
And I think that just conveys so much more. I coached Little League soccer for her team one season. And I went to this little clinic with some coaches that do it on a competition level, and they were trying to help educate us volunteers on the recreational level.
Yeah.
Like, here's what you do. You're dealing with little kids. Mm-hmm. Let them make it fun. Right? Let them have fun. And so my goal was, A, to educate the parents as well.
Right.
And then also myself, like, I wasn't screaming instructions at them on the field while we were playing games. I would teach them in practice fundamentals, and then cheer them on when they played on the field.
Love it.
Right? And that's what I encouraged all the parents to do. I emailed all those parents, and I said, this is what I'm going to try and work on here. And this is why, because we want kids to enjoy it. We want them to have fun. Sure. Because as they move on, you'll notice a lot of kids that drop out of sports or any other activity do it because it becomes work. They no longer enjoy it.
Sure.
Because as parents, we're pressuring them. We're pushing them to do the best. You go on YouTube and you find yelling parents or fighting parents at kids' sports games, you're going to find plenty of examples. And that's destructive.
Yeah.
Where we can just, if you go to your kid's sports game, and I'm getting on this whole rant here, but just enjoy them.
Yeah.
Cheer them on.
Yeah.
Great job. Don't yell at them instructions on the field.
Sure.
That's going to confuse them.
Sure.
That's going to, fluster them. Just cheer them on. Just do that. And I think you're going to have a whole new perspective. Your kid will love you more. I'm not saying you don't give life lessons when they're necessary, but consider the balance. I think that's what I gleaned from this book is.
Yes. And those are deposits you're making. So when you do need to have that serious talk, my mom used to call them the deep and meaningfuls. Like, hey, Brett, it's time for deep and meaningful. Okay.
Yeah.
But had she not done all those emotional deposits along the way of just the fun, go enjoy it, it wouldn't be as well received.
Right. Absolutely.
But because I knew she loved being invested in me then.
And we tend to, as children, we tend to tune that out and we're like, oh, okay.
Sure.
And here comes another lecture.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And that's related, I think, somewhat in another point she's going to make. She makes in the book about experiences over things.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
Talk about creating experiences and even the soccer games. I mean, those are experiences.
Yeah.
If you play up those points, hey, this is part of your chapter of your life. Enjoy it with your kids because it's not going to last forever. It doesn't last long at all. It goes before you know it.
Indeed. Anyway, the other thing I just wanted to mention is I've actually started a separate gratitude journal.
Oh, have you?
Where I've got a little reminder that pings me every night, and I've got a little template that says I'm grateful for. And I just pick one thing. I try to think about the day and make it relevant to the day. If not, I just think of something I'm grateful for and write it down. And so I hope to have a nice collection. She talks about how she started kind of a once a day thing and then transitioned into more of a 3 times a week. That's kind of more of what I'm, because doing it once a day, I don't want to make it work as well. I genuinely want to find instances where I'm grateful. And this has been an amazing book. Yeah. I love this book.
Yeah, I'm loving it too. And I also love the emphasis of we have a lot of things we can't change in our life. We can change the way we think about it. That's such a basic concept, but it's really one I think does come through being grateful and noting those things.
Absolutely.
You think, oh, I'm in such a bad situation. Well, can you make it positive? And to me, a little bit like it was a fine line because she could have gone there where it was all about positive mental attitude.
Right.
Well, just think it's great and it'll be great. Well, that's not always true.
Nope.
But yet you can always reframe the way you position it. Yeah. I think
it's not changing reality. Yeah. It's just changing how we react to the circumstances. Sure. And I like that she called that out too.
Yeah.
We're not trying to make up something that isn't true.
Right.
It's just how we're reacting to the circumstances that we're in.
And it's a skill. It's a skill you get better at. Just like a physical muscle, the more you work it. And I think the more you practice gratitude, the easier it comes. And then you start seeing and reframing things in a way, I'm grateful for this instead of always picking the one thing that it didn't work out.
Right.
I'm going to focus on, it's such a bummer. Well, no, all these other things worked out. And that's easy to translate to your kids, right?
Exactly.
Can't they learn this one thing at a time? Well, look at all the other things they're doing.
Yes.
Put yourself back in their age.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. So we encourage you to join us. The book is called The Gratitude Diaries by Janice Kaplan. We'll put a link below. And I'm
holding it up if you can see with your ears.
Hold on. Let's take a picture. Yeah. Let's do that. And then we can just...
yeah, it's great.
Here, I'm going to...
The sub
pull this closer to your handsome face there. Okay.
And I'm smiling. I don't know why, because I'm not in the picture, but I'm holding it.
You are in the picture.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, that's why I'm taking you.
How a year looking on the bright side can transform your life.
Yeah, so link below. The idea is read this book. Well, you've got a couple weeks now, because we want to do a Zoom call with anyone who wants to join us, and we're going to talk about the book and things that you learned and did you journal about it? Did you record kind of your experiences with this or what you tried, because that's the idea, especially, considering this is the day one podcast.
Right.
We encourage you to record stuff in how that's going. Like maybe start a gratitude journal or just start writing down in your entries, how this has impacted you.
Being mindful.
Now, if you join the call, you can just be a lurker and listen, totally fine, or you can join in and chat. There's video or audio, whichever one you feel comfortable with.
Sure.
But we'll announce that, it'll probably be first week or weekend of December. That's kind of the plan tentatively.
Right.
But we'll announce that on social media,
right,
at Day One App, on Instagram and Twitter, and then also on the Facebook community page and Facebook page. So
yeah, special thanks to Lou Rinaldi, who's been heading that up for us. He's doing a poll right now to get the best time for most that can tune in. But we'll
if you can't come, we post the video later so that you can also do that. But
sounds great. Excited.
Woohoo!
Gonna be good. All right,
one of the best books I've ever read, honestly.
Yeah, it's so easy to read too. It's when you just sit down and before you know it, you've read 20. It just really flows. And
she has some great anecdotes in there, and they're relatable.
Yes.
Some aren't necessarily. I would love to go on the vacations that she goes on, but
wow,
maybe I should, and that's the lesson here. But yeah, no, great read.
Yeah, just like I did with last book, Adam, I'll post my highlights about a week before.
Perfect.
Maybe 2 weeks before we do the podcast. So if you time's crunch, money's a crunch, you can't, or library can't pick up the book.
Yep.
At least you can review the highlights of what I've marked.
Great idea.
So fun stuff.
Great idea.
All right. Well, should we get to our day one discussion?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I had a great discussion with Morgen from Australia. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Morgen from Brisbane in Australia.
You been to Australia, Adam?
No. My daughter was doing a Australian accent yesterday after school. I don't know why. She just loved saying the word mate. She said it all the time. And I was like, okay.
Hey, mate. Love it.
Anyway.
I'm going to start by telling you or playing a little bit of how she got started with Day One. This is a great story.
Well, it's funny. I've had a really mixed history with Day One. I've always loved it, but I haven't always been faithful to it. So I found that I actually got Day One way back in the beginning in 2012, and I've always been interested in journaling. I've always been interested in memory keeping, and obviously, like most of us, when we went digital, it just seemed like a natural thing to find a digital tool, especially with taking lots of iPhone photos. It was so easy to use that kind of integrated system.
Nice.
Yeah. So like many of our users, they try, download a lot of journaling apps, kind of narrow it down, end up with one or two. She shared with me a couple apps that she kind of got into and started to focus on those and not using Day One for a while. That's why she said she's had this mixed relationship, because she started strong, kind of got focused on some others. She made a comment, which I didn't have in the recording, but she talked about some of these apps is like getting on a horse and not knowing where you're going to end up. I don't know what their long-term plan is, and we've talked about how Day One is different than a lot of apps. We're not doing the VC route where we look to be acquired and then you lose all your info.
Yep.
That happened to one of the apps she invested in. She had years and years of entries, and she put everything in it, and then to find out they just went out of business and didn't give any time to export out.
Yeah, software's a tricky thing, and that's kind of the reason I try to plug for paying for Day One is you're keeping us in the black so that we can keep building the app. Because if not, a company has to survive. We've got to pay for engineers. We've got to pay for overhead costs. We've got to pay for support staff.
Sure.
So, I don't know what happened to that app specifically, but if it was acquired or whatever, then that bigger company does what it wants with that service or software. And
there were some, we don't need to mention names, but there's some that do go out of business or acquired and give users, here's the 30-day before we shut down our servers. This was one, she said, we had no notice. All of a sudden it was like,
ouch,
ghost town. We didn't hear any updates and any bugs. And then all of a sudden it just was gone.
That's too bad.
Painful. But here's her talking a little bit more about that journey.
This is where Day One kind of knocked on my door and reminded me and said, hey, remember me, the faithful old me. And I had actually kept some pretty meaningful journal entries in there, some really personal stuff that I didn't want to put on Heyday about, the early experiences of parenthood. And then I sort of realized, it's probably time to go back to Day One. So I have spent the last year actually moving everything from my blog and 23 snaps into day one so that I have a record of it. And I finished doing that about 3 months ago. And I've recommitted. We've set our vows again, and I've been absolutely thrilled with using it. It's getting the reminders of this time 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. Even though I probably the entries weren't created in day one, the fact that they're there now is absolutely awesome. So yeah, sure. Bit of a long rambling story, but yeah, a bit of an intimate one.
That's great.
Yeah, intimate relationship.
Well, that's how I feel about my journal. Mm-hmm. It's that shoulder to cry on, something that's always listening where you can just be open.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Not that you need to cry on, but just any open ear. That's what my journal is.
Right.
Where I can say anything.
Sure. Remember Sabat a few weeks ago said it was like your best friend.
Yeah.
Someone you always have to turn to.
And someone with a perfect memory that can remind you about the cool things, right? Yeah. This is like the perfect listener.
Yes. So Morgan, quick shout out. She's also very active on the Facebook group, which is helpful in helping other users. She works in software development, so she does a lot of user experience for companies, or her company. And one thing that she talked about is how we have a tendency to maybe hold back until a feature that we want is in the app before we start using it.
Right.
So here's her comment about that.
I was in the shower one day and I was really stuck. I was stuck between what day one did and what it could do and what it didn't do that I wanted it to do, compared to I was keeping a WordPress blog because I've got a multimedia and user experience background, so I was really comfortable doing that. Mm-hmm. And I had 23 snaps on the boil, and I'm thinking, what is it that I'm missing? What is it that day one? What stopped me from going back there? Why am I so fragmented? And it was exactly as you described. It did 90% of what I wanted, and the 10% of the things, like video, for example, is either coming or there's a workaround, and it shouldn't stop me from using the app to the fullest of its potential and exploring all that it can do now, with the waiting for it to be perfect. So I thought, I'm going to double down and, like you say, invest in the ones that you've got and give feedback on the ones that you've got as well.
Great stuff.
That's important too, giving feedback.
So important. She talks about, I don't want to spoil because it's coming up.
Okay, yeah.
I love her comment about that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So do you find that helpful? You said about feedback, but I know you get a lot being in support, you and Ryan. You get a lot of people that say the 10%, right? I really would love day one if it did this.
Right.
Instead of focusing on the other things that it does already.
One of my favorite TV shows is Parks and Recreation.
Sure.
You remember that?
Yeah.
In the first season, they are doing this mural competition where each department is responsible for creating a mural to replace the existing one, which is like completely racially insensitive. Anyway, it's a comedy show, but sure. Basically the parks department creates what one of the characters calls a camel. It's like really ugly, right? And not that people's feature requests would make day one ugly, but it's something to consider when we don't want it to be like super feature heavy or just like feature, what do they call it? Feature bloat. Feature bloat. Yep. Where it just like has so many things that it can do, but it doesn't do all of them well. You know what I mean? So
it takes 2 minutes to open because it's got to load all the things to it.
So the idea, and I think this is where Paul wants to go. He can speak for himself, but I think I'll interpret that just a little bit, is to keep day one as simple as possible.
Sure.
It's a journaling app, and that's what we want to be the best at. Mm-hmm. Writing text, adding photos, now audio, pencil support, etc. But there's a lot of fringe ones too that will come up, and that's fine. Like that may be a great idea, but it's all something that that Paul and the development team kind of look at and go, how does this fit with our mission to being the best journaling app,
and taking resources off something else to do that.
Exactly. Sure. So people use day one for a variety of reasons, note taking or their own social media, whatever it may be. So we don't want to discount that, but the primary purpose of it is a personal digital journal. Yeah. So, those are things that I think the team takes into consideration, is just how does a feature fit within that framework?
Yeah, makes sense. Morgan talks a little bit about her journaling background techniques.
I found that I have always had the yearning, let's put it that way. And I'm not kidding you, I probably have about 20 journals that I have started and they're only about a quarter full. And I've just recently gone through and actually scanned some of those, and I'm going to add them into day one and try to sort of capture them as a bit of an archive. So that's another memory keeping project I've got. I've always had the yearning to do it, and I've always, as I said, either handwritten journals or, as I said, for me, it was always more memory keeping, less kind of that cathartic thought expression. And then it would oscillate back again. I'd really want to get into something that's going on or something that I'm learning and thinking about, and really just kind of want to dump all that thinking down. I think what I've struggled with definitely is the consistency of habit. And that's, like we were talking about earlier, exploring day one and its functionality, just working out, having a couple of different journals and not feeling like you need to do only one thing in there. I've loved that. That's been wonderful.
Yeah, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. I brought that up in my Roots Tech presentation, is, the couple of hangups that I see consistently is, that I don't know how to keep consistent with it. I don't know how to build a habit. And we do what we can to keep that at the forefront with on this day notifications or a optional reminder, or even just a reminder that says it's time to journal. That's that can pop up randomly, or a location prompt where it says you've been to 8 places today. Why don't you write about them? So there's ways to help build that. I mean, certainly that takes some personal responsibility, and I think that's what she's looking at and how that will work for her, and it's perfect. That's what she should be doing.
And I love that she pointed out the two general ways that we can use a journaling app, and that would be, like she said, for memory keeping, so storing things that she's done, and we've talked about Paul with his concert tickets, and that's a great way to store events.
Yeah, I love that.
And then also another way of using it is, of course, your thoughts coming from your mind, processing issues. We've talked a lot about mental health and going through that. And if you need to vacillate between the two, you're really heavy on one for a little while and switch to the other, that's great.
Yep.
You're using the app.
Right. And we don't need to feel like obligated to write a novel every time I want to journal.
Right.
Like it can be a sentence.
Sure.
It can be a quote you remembered or heard that day.
Of course.
There was a thing one of our coworkers here, Paul Smart, said in a meeting where we were considering this feature or something like that, and he's like, you know what a post-mortem is, right?
Sure.
Post-mortem is where you kind of deconstruct what went wrong in a situation. He said, let's do a pre-mortem where we consider what might go wrong and try to address those now so that we don't have to do a post-mortem. And I thought that was fascinating. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm definitely putting that down in my work journal.
Yeah.
So I created an entry where I just talked about my interpretation of a pre-mortem, and I thought that was a cool idea.
Very cool. That's great.
So it can be anything. It can be anything. It can be one sentence. It can be a photo. It can be, whatever.
You do you.
You do you. Means. Yes.
That's right. I also thought it was interesting. She, we haven't talked about this for a while, the idea of collaborating. I think when we had Haas and some of the server team, we talked about the old, how we used to do the publishing and how we kind of want to get back to the web approach. She had a couple comments about that.
It's definitely it's a hard, you can't be all things to all people. And I absolutely, if you're going to go down a path of specializing a product as beautifully as we've done with Day One, it is really a personal journaling application. But I think what I've struggled with is, like my husband and I would love to collaborate with my husband and I on journals. And I know that's something that we're thinking about. But then collaboration is one thing, or sharing a journal is another thing. But then selectively publishing that is something different again. Yes. And I think it's hard. And I think I've loved the book printing functionality, because it is that concept of getting it out of your phone or getting it out of the ether and being able to share that. But yeah, I think that's one of those things that that was probably the number one thing that stopped me from moving back into Day One, was knowing that I'd have to go through lots of hoops to get it back out of that platform again to share it.
I don't want to interpret for the team.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, about Publish. Yeah. Publish was available in the classic app, and it's not in the new app. And the plan originally was to put it in there, but again, we thought about what's the mission of the app itself. Yeah. Is it to be a publishing service where I can make an online blog? The thing is, there's a lot of companies out there, services that do it well. I know a bunch of the developers use Medium, for example, for an online publishing service, and that's it's hard to encroach on a space where we're trying to be one thing, but also kind of move into another space and maintain both of those really well. So that's kind of the tricky part that I think is part of the consideration.
What about more the collaborative?
Now that I love. I love that idea, and we actually tested it for a little bit internally. There were some issues with it in sharing certain things, but we had a group shared journal where all of us were invited. You can invite up to like 6 or 8 people or something like that. That's what we had it to. And the great thing was everybody had their own data on their own apps, but we also had this one shared journal.
Sure.
And so the idea was, each user could contribute to an entry, etc., or create their own entries and then just have this nice collaborative shared journal. I love that idea, and I can't wait. Like I hope that's still in the plan, and I hope that's still going to work. Obviously, there's a lot of things that the team wants to do.
Sure.
So
it would be the journaling written version of the shared photo albums.
Yeah.
Because I love that on a trip where you can all subscribe to the same and let your photos show up, and then you don't have to do that later thing of, hey, let me borrow your thumb drive, or let's upload to Google Photos or whatever. This way you can just share it all as it happens. That'd be a nice way to write your history, your experiences collaboratively.
Right. My use case that I thought of was, do you do family reunions?
No. Not if I can help it.
My mother's grandparents, they're children actually. So my mother's parents and her siblings created this every 3-year family reunion, and it's actually one of my favorite things every 3 years.
Good.
We rent out this cabin down in Cedar City, and then for 3 days hang out and have fun, and then each family is responsible for a dinner one night, and
great.
It is absolutely amazing. I would love to do like a shared journal situation for that, where we share stories, collaborate on information, record audio for something, and then be able to export that in a way where it can be shared to everyone and preservable. So
would you give access to that crazy uncle?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You want the color commentary, you want him there? I guess you let me on the podcast.
We all have the crazy uncle.
That's right.
But no, just that kind of idea, or like a family trip, when my wife's family decided to go to Disneyland, we all take pictures, we all do things, we put it in this journal, and then we print out copies. And be like, Smith family vacation to Disneyland, and then we all have this printed copy with all of our images in there.
That's awesome.
And that idea sounds amazing to me, because then it's a preservable format where
Love
anyway,
it.
that's how I envision myself using a shared journal feature. So
that sounds great. This one I'm going to play with no introduction. We're going to do a post-mortem discussion.
So I definitely think where Day One's going, I think its sense of identity is really wonderful, and I think that's why the community is so big, and that's why there's so many loyal users to it.
Thank you to the loyal users.
Yep, absolutely.
For listening. As we're reading this Gratitude Diaries too, it's made me more aware of that, just how grateful I am for the ability that I have to be here to help out Day One, and the community that's been so gracious and involved in trying to make a better app for their purposes as well as the community and for others.
Yep. So. I'm grateful for the people that subscribe that have paid for the app in the past, because I have a job.
Yes.
And I'm super grateful for that. I'm grateful that I'm able to, provide and subsist and live and have transportation and a roof over my head. Like I'm super grateful for that. So thank you to the community out there, listeners that have, in some way or another supported Day One through subscribing or paying for the app. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed, for sure. This is one of my favorite clips of hers, and it's an important question that we need to ask as we're thinking about doing entries in our Day One.
I think they're transient. Like I described to you before I was married and had kids, I wanted to track everything and monitor everything. But to what end? My thoughts and feelings and photos, that's actually what I realized when I distilled it all down. That's what I wanted to track. There's other apps out there that you can correlate. If you want to correlate data to find, information about yourself or trends or habits, that's something else. And it's interesting. I'm curious to see people that use Day One for that purpose. Yeah.
Again, the question, to what end?
Right.
I think it's great to ask that. To what end am I doing this for, or what to end? And kind of have that end in mind as you record, as you do things.
Certainly. And I think that's one way, for sure. I like that idea. I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Sure.
And I'll just defend it in this way. Yeah. We have to define journaling for ourselves, right? And so that is an absolute awesome way to do it.
Sure.
What is my end goal for this? And I don't discount that because I personally use that.
Sure.
But I also don't want to limit someone who thinks they have to,
yes.
fit within that box and be able, I just want to do whatever without any sort of endpoint.
Sure.
I just want to get my thoughts out on there. And that's all. I don't want to discount what Morgan said. I think that's an absolute gem.
Yeah.
But
great point.
Define journaling for you. And I'm going to always say that. I'm going to harp on that for you. Define journaling for you.
Mm-hmm.
You do you, right? That's what you just said.
That's right. Yes. Here's her tip. She actually, I won't play it because we've heard it before, but her favorite feature is on this day.
Yeah.
She loves that.
We're going to start a tally.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
How many times no, I'm just kidding.
But she had some great feature suggestions on taking that a little bit deeper.
Oh, great.
So I'll share that with the team, but awesome stuff. Here's her tip, something that she's mentioned before, but here's the summary of her tip.
My tip for day one is just use it. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait till you figure out what journals you need or tags you need. Just start using it, and it will evolve and grow as you do.
Awesome.
Simple, sweet.
The other thing I love about the conversations we have here with users is they're from all over the world. Mm-hmm. We're getting experiences and uses from everyone, and I think that's so great.
Very great.
It's cool to connect to people like that.
Yeah.
What an opportunity.
That plays nicely into the final clip, which is, again, with her background in user experience, dealing a lot with bugs and fixes and features, and feeling like she's done that with a lot of apps, but this is a little bit different with day one.
Thanks, Brett. I'll probably, in closing, say, like you, I'm a prolific app user, and I've been, this is the first time in my entire history that I've actually proactively gotten out and provided feedback, not kind of bug fixes or anything. So that's definitely a compliment to you. Got me up off my seat to reach out to you. So thank you for that. That's really appreciated.
Thanks, Morgan.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. Thank you so much, Morgan, for taking the time and being on our show today.
Yeah.
She didn't have a choice, but
that's right. I warned her.
But I'm grateful that we get to have these opportunities to hear from users. So.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, is everything good?
Yeah, that option is always available too. Calendly.com/day1app.
Yep,
so
link below.
To talk to you.
Check out the link below or in the description of this episode. As always, if you need to get in touch with support for any reason, go to day1app.com/contact. It shows our different options for contacting support. Mm-hmm. You can also go to help.day1app.com for our help guides, tips, tutorials, troubleshooting. We've tried to be super comprehensive there, and if I'm missing something, let me know. I'm happy to add a guide if we need one, but I've tried to include screenshots as much as possible to be super descriptive.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then if you want, please follow us on social media. We're at Day1App on Instagram and Twitter, and you can go to facebook.com/Day1App and like us on there. And then our community page, if you go to facebook.com/groups/day1community, you can be a part of that. There is a little approval process because we want to weed out any bots or anything like that. So you just answer 2 questions, and then our moderators will take care of you, Mike and Michelle. Thank you, Mike and Michelle, as always, for helping us out with that. They like to welcome our new members.
They do great. Over 1,000 now.
Yeah, that's so great. Yeah. And it's super autonomous now, which I love. You are all sharing ideas, asking each other questions. That's great. That's what we wanted it to be.
Right.
I chime in every now and then just to kind of help out if I can. Sure. It's not meant to be a customer support channel, so if you want official customer support, you'll need to go to customer support. But I'll chime in every once in a while and just say something, and I know a couple of members of the team do. Yeah. I saw Murphy comment recently on a shared journal post, I think.
With his personal experiences of using.
Yeah, so
good stuff.
It's a fun community, I think. And I think you all do a great job of sharing what you have and asking questions. So
thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody. This is a grateful podcast. That's what we're going to call this episode.
Yes. Adam, I'm grateful for you.
Thank you.
It's been
I'm grateful for you too.
Yeah. Here's to more.
Yeah, so that's everything, everyone. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening today.
Yeah, take care.